Good evening. It's always wonderful to look out and see this place full. So just to let you know, if you're sitting up front, we start the donations in the back and move forward. The Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Board of Trustees is now convening a regular board meeting on Thursday, June 24th, 2021, in the boardroom of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center, located at 10,300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas, at 6 p.m. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personal appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 through 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on Comcast, Channel 16, and the district website. They will also be available as video on demand on the district website following tonight's meeting. For the video to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. I intelligently left mine in my car, so it's pretty silent. I would like everybody else to turn yours off, please. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. At this time, I would usually take the opportunity to recognize our Community Leadership Committee members who are here. Stacy Anderson, would you stand? There you are. Thank you, Stacy. Ryan Irving. Where are you? Right there you are. Francis Romero. Thank you, Francis. For those that don't know, the Community Leadership Committee meets once a month, and they learn more and more about our district and the different things that affect us and support us and move us forward. And they're always wonderful to have with us. We do not have any Boy Scouts signed up for tonight. The invocation and pledge of allegiance. The invocation of tonight's board meeting will be given by Dennis Herman. I'm not going to say that right, Dennis. I'm not. Thank you. Hermodine, lead pastor of the King's Cross Church. Dennis moved to Cypress to plant King's Cross Church in 2014. He has been married to his wife, Jane, for 33 years, and they have 3 adult children, Olivia, Joshua, and Lida May. Dennis has been in active ministry for the past 30 years and holds a B in Organizational Communication with the University of Memphis, an MA in Faith and Culture from Trinity International University, and a Master of Divine from Reformed Theological Seminary. He was a contributing author to the book Heal Us, Emmanuel, A Call for Racial Reconciliation, Representation, and Unity in the Church. Thank you for being here tonight, Dennis. After the invocation, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let us pray. We praise you, God, our Creator, for your handiwork in shaping, sustaining your wondrous creation. We especially thank you for the miracle of life and the wonder of living in this world. We pray especially for the particular blessings that you give to us each day, for resources that you provide to our community here in Cypress, for the gifts of creative vision, for the treasure and potential stored in each human life, for the successful outcomes upon planning for school events, and for all our staff, members, admin, principals, teachers, coaches, maintenance, and custodial care staff. We ask that you would give this board and all those in the school district insight to lead with integrity, that their decisions may reflect what is right and good, Keep them from short-sightedness. Help them to make decisions that are good for all and guard them from blind self-interest. Be with them in their deliberations and help them to be wise, equitable, and just in the decisions that they make for the good of all those that place their trust and confidence in them and for those who are dependent upon their leadership. Lord, we ask that you would help each board member to welcome conflict, not as a sign of something that should be avoided, but rather as the beauty of diversity and an opportunity to reach creative solutions. Help them to recognize this diversity as a sign of your capacity to love each one of us and to help them to cherish it as a strength. Help them to approach each issue with an open and inquiring mind, seeking to be free of prejudice, with a spirit depending on yours for strength to make hard decisions. We pray that you would bless this body and its deliberations this evening. We pray all this in the precious name of Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Board Member Tom Jackson will read the district's vision and mission statement for the benefit of the audience. Mr. Jackson?
Our vision at Cyfair ISD is formed from the acronym LEAD, to learn, empower, achieve, and to dream. LEAD. Our mission is to maximize every student's potential through rigorous and relevant learning experiences, preparing students to be 21st century global leaders.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. One other recognition is our state representative, John Rosenthal, is with us. John, would you stand up? Thank you for coming. Now we've got some recognitions. I'm going to turn it over, and I'm a little cautious of doing this, to Mr. Don Ryan, who has an announcement to make. Don?
Don't worry, Bob.
Okay.
Bob has been a great servant to our district locally, but what a lot of you may not know is he also serves statewide and has done some things nationally. So it is my honor to announce that our board president, Mr. Covey, has been reelected to the TASB Board of Directors for Region 4, Position F. Congratulations, Bob.
Thank you. No. Were you making more?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, certainly no. Yeah, okay, thanks. And now, Dr. Henry will make remarks and announcements, including the honors and achievements earned by staff and student in recent weeks. Dr. Henry?
Thank you, Mr. President. And although we've been out of school a few weeks, the board meeting in June is a little later than most months, but we still get to celebrate some student achievements from this past school year. Four Bridgeland High School tennis players finished as state quarterfinalists at the UIL State Tennis Championships, held May 20th and 21st in San Antonio. Congratulations to girls singles players Lindsay Payne and Divya Tulare, as well as girls doubles players Emma Eads and Allison Chin for representing CFISD at state. Congratulations to the Cypress Creek High School boys golf team, which finished 12th at the UIL Boys State Golf Championship held May 17th and 18th at Legacy Hills Golf Club in Georgetown. The trip marked the first visit to the state championship for Cypress Creek since 1981, so 40 years. And I can tell you, if you don't know, there's about 260 6A high school teams throughout the state of Texas, and we're certainly proud of Cy Creek for being one of those that made it all the way to state. Many CFISD students had tremendous achievements in the 2020-2021 school year. Please enjoy the slideshow as we recognize our award winners virtually. congratulations to all of our students and certainly all the sponsors and parents who are behind the scenes to help our students have such a great and successful year with what they love to do. Recently, we selected a new principal at Keith Elementary School, and I will turn it over to Roy Garcia for introductions. Roy.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. President Covey and Board of Trustees, last month, Dawn Tryon was selected as a new Director of Community Engagement, which created a principal vacancy at Keith Elementary School. And tonight, we are excited not only to introduce to you, but to the CFISD community, our new principal for Keith Elementary School, Mrs. Julie Clements. Before we provide Julie an opportunity to address the board and also introduce her family, I will give a brief overview of her professional experience. Julie received her bachelor's degree from Baylor University, her master's degree from University of Texas at Dallas, and her principal certification from Stephen F. Austin State University. She served as a speech-language pathologist and a speech pathologist supervisor in CFISD for 6 years. She was a classroom teacher at Yeager Elementary School and an instructional specialist at Gleason Elementary School. Julie served as an assistant principal at Frazier Elementary for 3 years and has been the assistant principal at Alt Elementary for the past 5 years. She did participate in the Teacher Leadership Institute, the Aspiring Principal Institute, and has served as a mentor for new assistant principals. In addition, she served as a summer school principal. Julie and her husband, Byron, who is an educator in Tomball ISD, have 2 daughters, Katie and Brindley. Katie attends Cypress Creek High School, and Brindley will join her mom at Keith Elementary School. Some of Julie's favorite things to do when she is not working include spending time with family, swimming, fishing, watching movies, listening to audiobooks, and trying out local coffee shops. Please join me in congratulating Julie.
Mr. Covey, Board of Trustees, Dr. Henry, thank you so much for the opportunity, honor, and privilege to serve as principal at Keith Elementary. I am a product of Cypress-ISD. I went to Cypress-ISD schools from kindergarten all the way through high school, and then have returned and served my entire career at Cypress as well. So I know very well the quality of education that can be provided here, and I'm so thankful, so very thankful for the opportunity to serve as principal at Keith Elementary. I do have some people here to introduce. And he's tearful, so I am trying not to be. So this is my husband, Byron, my daughter, Brindley and Katie. This is my mom and dad, Taylor and Sherry Norris. My sister, brother-in-law, and their daughter. So Tyler's not here, that's Sheridan, Jennifer and Stacy, my brother, Justin. And on the end down there, I've got one of my principal mentors, Jeff LeCoq. He's hanging out down there as well. I know I also have some of my previous coworkers as well as my future coworkers at Keith Elementary here and online supporting me as well. And so I'm so very thankful to have their support and encouragement. I truly look forward to working alongside of the amazing Keith family to continue the tradition of excellence and truly provide opportunity for all. So thank y'all so much for the opportunity.
Okay, we're going to take, and we count them, a 4-minute, 59-second break so we can congratulate Ms. Clements, who I've known since she was in junior high. And I will tell you that if you want to leave, we won't charge you for leaving, but we'd love to have you come back and join us for the rest of the meeting. So 4 minutes, 59-second break right now. Okay, we will now proceed to the public comments portion of the agenda. Patrons who have duly registered per policy BED local may address the board and make public comments on the agenda item during or before the board's consideration of the item. The board may allow public comment on agenda items at all meetings. The board will continue with the remaining agenda after the registered patrons have had an opportunity to speak. I will also let you know that we have a light set up over here to my right, and there is a green light as soon as you start. You've got 2 minutes to make your comments. At 30 seconds before, the yellow light will come on. When the red light comes on, we ask you to summarize and complete what you're saying. And please don't run over because we have a number of comments tonight. So starting out with the public comments section, AC Indamayo, I don't know whether I said that right. So if you want to, when you get up here, if I've mispronounced your name, please correct me. That's fine. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Aisha Indamayo. Last board meeting, I asked for the board's transparency on a video that teaches children that their unconscious thoughts are known based on the color of their skin. I asked who provided the video. I was not given transparency. Something is wrong here and I want answers. I have 2 examples of this and I want to bring them to light.
Ma'am, your comment, ma'am, the public comment portion is actually for the agenda item. You signed up to speak on the minutes. So if you have a specific comment about that agenda item, otherwise we would put you in the citizen participation. We're happy to do that.
I was told since I spoke last time, I could speak on what I spoke on last time since it was on the agenda in the minutes.
No, that's not correct. First of all, here,
Okay.
I'm just trying to make
Hold
sure
on.
we speak at the right location because there's time differences.
If we can't keep this civil, we don't need to be having it. So come on. If you're going to be civil, that's wonderful. We're here to listen, and I'm here to hear you speak. So,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we had you in the right spot.
Okay. So my first example, when I called Virgin High School to find who provided the video, the response was the district. I said, does that mean the board? And the response was Dr. Henry. And I said, does that mean the board? And they said Dr. Henry. From there, I came to the board to make sure my information was correct because it was highly concerning that our superintendent would promote the ideas in that video specifically. And the president of the board responded in a letter to me, it was a diverse student and staff campus committee and not the board who selected the video. My question was who provided the video, not who selected the video. I called the school again and asked an assistant principal who from the committee provided the video that they had selected. The response was silence. I asked if the school committee Googled the video to obtain it, and the response was silence. That's not transparency, that's deflection and silence. My second example is personal. I got a call from my child's assistant principal informing me she told him what he should have done in a social situation, even though he didn't disobey any rules. His friend did, and the AP told him he should have physically distanced himself from the disobedient friend. I thought, that's a very odd reason to call me. Every time a child gets a talking to by an assistant principal, I think it goes into their permanent record. So naturally, I was concerned. In my house, we let our values guide our children in social situations. My child had the right to choose where to stand in a social situation without the AP telling him. I asked the AP if social emotional learning was being employed when she talked to him. The response was it was a teachable moment. That's it. The response did not answer if it was social emotional learning being used, even though that's the question I asked. I asked again, and she said it was a teachable moment.
please summarize.
And I said, teachable according to what? Social emotional learning? I got silence.
Thank you
Teachable
very
moments
much.
at
You may sit down,
Cypress-Fairbanks
ma'am.
teach children social shame.
Ma'am.
Can you
Ma'am.
imagine the shame and humiliation the child
Ma'am.
feels when his friends are forced to leave him from the authority of an
I'll handle
assistant
it.
principal?
I-
That's what I have
Ma'am,
to say.
okay,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
We have this policy set. If you cannot finish, then we'll ask you to leave because that's how the policy is set up. And that's transparent. It's in our policy manual. So next up is Jeremy Schneid. Tell me how it's pronounced. Shy. Thank you.
I know you're actually speaking on an agenda item, correct? Okay, perfect.
Let's start.
Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Scheid. I am a teacher here at Cypher ISD. ISD, and I would like to make a remark regarding the teacher pay raise. It's been my knowledge that teacher pay raise is going to be a percentage increase, but this is a huge disadvantage for lower income earners. Our support staff, our school bus drivers, our custodian workers, our cafeteria workers. A percentage increase does not do them just. These people I've worked beside throughout the school year. They are the foundation of every school, and I am advocating that you also include a stipend to their pay as well. If it wasn't for these individuals, not only would we have been able to have a clean school for the COVID year, to make sure children have food in their stomachs, and also to make sure that students can come to school in a safe manner, and still only to reward them with such a menial increase in pay, to where most of their pay would be erased just because of healthcare costs, is ridiculous. And to truly support our support staff, I am advocating that we also include for them a stipend as well. Again, my name is Jeremy Scheid. I'm a teacher at Cypress-Fairbanks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Scheid. Silva Davis.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Silver Davis, just like color, and I'm following up behind this slide there. I'm a school bus driver, been a driver for 19 years. I love Cypher, I love the kids, but I've seen a few things. And what I've seen is that senior personnel in the subordinate area is not being really gratified. I've had different ones come up to me and say, you know what, you've been driving for this district for how long? How did you do that? I said, well, it wasn't about the money, it was about the kids. But why do you ask? I don't think I can stay that long. Not for what you guys do and the way you're treated. I got thinking about that. I said, I come in at one level, entry-level people coming in. And of course, we don't discuss salary, but it doesn't take a rocket science to realize that if they're coming in just a few dollars shy of what you have, what you're earning after so many years, something's wrong with that. If you're going to raise the entry-level pay, it should be across the board. Let's give the seniors their due. Right there, I see you putting a lot into what makes us look good, but we don't need not all that, because we are good. Our kids show that we're good. Let's take the people into consideration, because we are the engine that drives the force behind the schools. All of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Ryan Irving.
Good evening, Superintendent Henry, President Covey, Board of Trustees, and to all of the Cypher community. My name is Ryan Irving, Jr. I'm a former CFISD student who has lived in the district for 22 years. I'm a current honors student and senior at the University of Houston. I am a CLC member, current candidate for the Cypher Board of Trustees, and a mentor and an advocate for public education. I am here today to discuss recent talks about salary increases for educators, staff, and as a taxpayer, stakeholder, and a former and current school board candidate for this community. It was always evident to me that based on the district's financial standings that our teachers and staff could receive an increase as high as 5%. The CFISD board over the last 8 years has approved a 3% increase in salaries, and in the overall last year, 1% increase in salaries. Unfortunately, these increases were and still are not enough to keep up with the rising cost of living, which has almost doubled since the year 2000 in this area. In addition, the skyrocketing cost of healthcare within the TRS system has put an even bigger financial burden on all of our teachers and staff. This past Thursday, June 3rd, 2021, the TRS board has held a special meeting where they raised the cost of the following TRS healthcare plans by 8%: TRS Active Care HD, Active Care 2, and Active Care Primary. TRS Active Care Plus will have a 5.5% increase. The state of Texas alone is the second highest second highest state in insurance premiums in the country. My reasons for advocating for teacher staff pay raises are genuine, meaning that I recognized as early as 2 years ago that the district was in good financial standing and could have sustained a 5% increase for our faculty and staff. The passing of House Bill 3 in 2019 gave the district an even better financial standing. The question that I have is why now? As an observer, some of the statements that was made within this body were statements such as, since March 3rd, our employees have not missed a paycheck that I'm aware of, or the number one goal is education for our students. And lastly, we will be strapped financially for the next couple of years, 2021, 2022, and 2023. Thank you.
Nikki Coward.
I look around the room tonight, and one thing I know for sure. We may not all be united on everything, but we are certainly united on how hard the Cy-Fair ISD employees have worked this year. Tonight, we expect the approval of the 2021-22 budget and pay raise, a raise that should honor our hard work and commitment to students this past year. Our food service heroes and the custodians that never ever stopped, our teachers and substitutes that quickly learned how best to support both the roomies and our Zoomies, the transportation department that delivered Chromebooks and hotspots, our librarians that had to become IT experts, our counselors that serviced the students that lost loved ones. I would fair to say that most people in this room lost someone they loved over the course of the last year. Our union remains committed to reinvesting in what works in public schools. Dedicated, respected teachers and staff that help to provide wraparound services to help students heal from the trauma of the last year, to help find stability in what has been the most difficult year for many. Our union is calling for at least a 4% raise and a $1,000 stipend for all staff, including support staff. And we greatly appreciate the engagement our union has had with our elected school board trustees. But I want to go on record by stating we appreciate and support the administration and board members in the work they have done here around racial equity policy. Our union members work every day to make sure their classroom is a safe, welcoming environment for all students. Heavy-handed intrusions by the Texas legislature make this work more difficult and send the wrong message to Black and brown families in Cy-Fair. We cannot promote racial equity in our district while trying to silence discussions about racial discrimination in our country. Again, this has been a hard year for all. I am waiting, our teachers and staff are waiting, and I really hope at the end of tonight, our employees see that you saw their contributions this year.
Thank you. Representative John Rosenthal.
Thank you, President Covey, Board Trustees, and Superintendent Henry for always welcoming me to these meetings. I'm here to talk about budget, agenda item 7B. I'm glad to see the budget reflects forward-leaning values. Your budget is your values. And I'm glad to see that you're working to provide salary increases for our teachers and our employees. And I urge you to maximize those in an equitable way so our valued employees are taken care of. I also notice what's not in the budget, anything about critical race theory, which has been grossly mischaracterized for political purposes to create an emotional wedge issue. Most of what they say.
Okay, once again, that's enough. If you want to leave, we can have you leave. That's up to you. But we don't need those kind of remarks. You've shown respect to everybody else, so let's show respect to our representative.
Keep your mouth shut.
Thank you. I hope I get that time back because this is time right.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Most of what's being said about critical race theory is complete horse manure. CRT examines the role of race in forming public policy and societal structures. It does not suggest that someone is racist because they happen to be Caucasian. It is not taught in K through 12 or in any Texas schools. It's college material. So House Bill 3979 discourages the teaching of the history of racism in this nation, I'm talking about the budget and
Okay,
what's
guys,
in it.
this is a meeting, okay, everyone, listen to me, please. This is a meeting that we're having in the public, but it's not a meeting of the public. And I appreciate very much that you may feel in the moment, and the first speaker didn't follow the rules at all. And so, but we're in an effort, we really want to have our meeting. We want people to be able to speak. And we're going to allow them to speak in the appropriate category. So what we just really ask is that you be respectful of every speaker, and then just recognize that this isn't a meeting in the public, or of the public. We're having the meeting in the public. So I'm going to ask that you all just please respect everyone who's speaking.
Go ahead, Mr. Rosenthal.
Thank you.
I'll cut it short. I do want to know. I want to mention Riley Shawdell, who, through his advocacy, led me to pass House Bill 699, which is Riley's rule, ensures that students are not penalized for absences associated with chronic or life-threatening illnesses. Because of his participation with that, Riley knows more about the process to pass a law in this state than 99.9% of his peers, and I would bet more than 99% of the people in this room. So all I'm saying at the end of the day is that CRT is not what many have been led to believe. It's not being taught in our schools.
Okay, thank
The
you.
State Board of Education determines curriculum. If you want to change the curriculum, those are who's talking.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal.
Thank you.
Tara Cummings.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Tara Cummings, and I'm a parent and taxpayer. And I want to speak on the budget. As you all are considering the budget, I ask and urge you to ensure that there are funds available to take the resolution condemning racism, which is necessary and vital and a crucial foundation, to take that from a lovely intention into actual action in practical, observable, measurable ways to acknowledge ongoing systemic racism even within CFISD, and to combat that so that we can truly provide opportunity for all of our students, in particular our Black and brown students. In board meetings past, another person has spoken one after another board meeting, Mariah Najmuddin, and she's a former employee, and she's shared her observations of instances of racial inequity and injustice currently happening in the district, along with really practical, feasible solutions for that. And so I'd also like to ask and urge you guys to review those previous meetings, or if anybody took notes, or reach out to Mariah, because, and I'm sure there's lots of other people in our CFISD community that have wonderful ideas, but I think right now we've got a foundation that's necessary, and now we need to take the next step, and the next step, and the next step in action to make good, so that we're not just having meaningless words on a paper. Thank you.
Now we will move to public. I'm sorry. Where are we? Oh, I'm sorry. We did that. Excuse me. I hadn't turned the page. Any board member may make a comment during this portion of the agenda without prior postings being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any students, staff, or board member, and may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this meeting. Mr. Ryan, would you like to kick it off?
I would. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Covey. I don't always, during the board comment section, speak, but tonight I feel compelled to, and I've actually written down my thoughts because I want them to be a matter of public record. I want to take a moment to talk about some questions and emails I've gotten lately about the district's curriculum and if we teach critical race theory. Let me start by saying that we teach the required curriculum from the state, and this does not include critical race theory, and it never has. Let me repeat that. It includes, officer,
Ma'am,
ask her to leave.
I'm sorry, would you
Ask her to
please-
leave. Pick her up.
Can
Pick her
y'all
up.
get up and go?
Pick her up.
Thank
Go.
you.
Go. I have the floor. She leaves. You can hear what I have to say, and you've had your chance to speak.
Ma'am, we'll clear the room. Ma'am, you're either quiet or please leave. Once again, we have shown respect to you. It's time for you to show respect to us.
And just for the viewing audience, what I'm sharing tonight are facts that you can look up. You can talk to any state representative. You can talk to the state board. But these are actual facts, not fiction, not made up. These are my thoughts. They're only my thoughts individually. And so I'm going to share them. The state requires teaching social studies and history, and that is going to obviously include learning about historic examples of racism and the impact. But our teachers know how to teach this, and in fact, we have a board policy that addresses how to cover this and other topics objectively. There's been some confusion and misinformation out there about this issue. Bridgeland's No Place for Hate Committee, which is led by students, recommended several different activities, including a video for other students to watch on implicit bias. The campus wanted parents to see the suggested video first and send it out to the parents to watch and provide feedback. After hearing concerns from parents, the principal did not include the video in the No Place for Hate activities, so the video was never shown to students. And I think there's confusion about No Place for Hate as well. This has been a popular program in schools for years, especially the past 10 years or so, as part of our anti-bullying education at many of our campuses. The committees are led by students and promote a positive school climate. It is not a program about critical race theory. Critical race theory, as far as I know, is something taught at some colleges, but it has never, ever been a part of the school district curriculum. In the school district, ever since I first started on the board in 2000, we have talked about educational equity as part of the requirements of No Child Left Behind. As part of No Child Left Behind, and now with whatever the law is called now, as a board we are required to look at our test scores and other achievement data that is broken down by race and create plans to close any achievement gaps between groups. This is part of what the board has asked the administration to do as part of the equity audit to help create plans to address the gaps. Our anti-bullying programs and the educational equity plans are things we have a responsibility to create and are not critical race theory programs. And I just want to take a minute and clear up that confusion. If any parent or patron has a question or concern about our curriculum, I would encourage you to contact our administration. And if you can take one thing away from my comments, I hope it would be that we are not teaching critical race theory. It is on the record. I've made the statement, so now you've got me. All right? Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Ms. Blackshear, would you like to follow up?
Yes, I want to thank all of the people involved in our recent graduations back the end of May, the 1st of June. We had another set of successful graduations through the, I hope I can say the end of the pandemic. I think it'll be the last graduation where we wore masks and had part of them out on the football field when the weather permitted. But the work behind the scenes was just absolutely tremendous, from Beth Wade and her crew at the Berry staff to our Cyfair Police Department, getting our parents and the graduates' loved ones in and out of the parking, and Dr. Deborah Stewart and Ife Ugumike, who were there helping us and helping the students, and just seeing that everything ran on schedule and as planned. And it was just, every graduation I attended 11 of the 12, were just amazing. And sometimes people ask board members, how in the world do you sit through 12 graduations? Well, just let me say, it is an honor to sit through and watch each of our classes graduate and see the culmination of their education in Cypher ISD and know that we have prepared them for the next step in life, whether it be college, trade school, the military, wherever they may be going next. And this year was no exception. We had a tremendous, over what, Dr. Henry, 9,000? 9,139 graduates. So another congratulations to the class of 2021. Thank you.
Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, Bob. Don, I will say your comments are excellent, and probably for the first time in 10 years, your comments tonight were better written than mine on the topic. It has been only a short month since the last board meeting. However, I've been busy on our collective behalf. Despite the pandemic, for the second year in a row, we had graduations for each of our campuses. We are the largest district in the United States to be able to say that we did this. Some this year were outside, and when inclement weather threatened, we pivoted and brought them inside. Thanks go to Beth Wade and her staff at the Berry Center, including food service personnel, and Chief Menendez and his force for making this seamless and safe.
You need to speak up.
Well,
Sir, seriously, you are here as an observer. Please do not shout from the audience. Thank you.
I will remind those in the audience I am a stage 4 survivor, and I'm very sorry that I had throat cancer and it robbed me of my ability to speak loudly. But life often gives you lemons, and you make the best of it. So once again, I apologize for being a stage 4 cancer survivor, and I still have active cancer today. But such is life. I'm sure there's other cancer survivors in the audience. As I was saying, an appreciative nod also goes to Austin for renewing the graduation committee concept and the admin personnel who served on the committee. On a personal note, sincere appreciation goes to Dr. Deborah Stewart and Ife Agumake for the care and support they gave to the board, making graduation attendance easier. And a special thank you to you ladies. What you put in my little goodie bag is very special for those who have gone through throat cancer, radiation, and chemotherapy. Our saliva production is always threatened and will always be less than necessary. But what you gave me was one of the MD Anderson recommended coping mechanisms. So thank you. Much appreciated. I attended summer leadership education in San Antonio. Key takeaways include the following. The Bob and Dr. Linda team presented on the College Academy here in Cypher, which was the first of its kind in Texas for students to graduate with an associate's degree in college while earning their high school diploma and enjoying the full high school experience through continued participation in extra and co-curricular activities. I will note that on the subject of equity concerns, this program was started at one of our Title I campuses at the high school level. Several trustees from around the state requested additional descriptive booklets that I was passing out so that their colleagues and superintendents could all have a copy to consider implementing the concept in their district. Kay Douglas of TASB, in her session on cultural awareness and cultural bias, reminded all the attendees that we are all on a continuum described by the concept. It is not the province or concern of any one group. Years ago, when I was in Dallas for state trustee education, CFISD was rolling out the Camp Summit and Algebra Camp concepts. I sat in on a seminar conducted by a superintendent of a very large district who offered, quite frankly, disparaging comments regarding the summer camp concept. He obviously was talking about us. That superintendent retired within a few years while his district continued to struggle. The camp concept unveiled by this district resulted in enhanced academic attainment, and we were pleased to say steadily improving graduation rates, with no doubt contributing mightily to the success of the college academy concept. We now have between 1,400 and 1,700 students enrolled in the college academy concept. A trustee for a large district within the greater Harris County area shared with me that they instituted the same camp concept at their district and were immediately seeing positive results. So I appreciate the leadership, Linda and Bob, that y'all have shown spreading best practices. And finally, I attended another seminar and I had to chuckle. One of the best practices of this district for the entire 10 years that I've been a trustee, but for the decade before that, is called a pyramid of services. It is, in fact, a business concept where you direct your resources to those areas that need the additional resources. Simple in the area of business, not so simple in the area of education. But once again, it is being lauded finally as best practices. Throughout the pandemic, I was proud that our district followed the state law and directives of both the governor and commissioner of education with fidelity and empathy. And as always, we will continue to adhere to the laws promulgated by Austin. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Heineman.
I just want to express my gratitude for the outpouring of love and support from the Cypher ISD community following the death of my daughter 4 weeks ago today. We are grateful for the cards and the messages, and we've read all of them and have saved them, and we especially appreciate your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heineman. Mrs. Sarabia.
Yes, thank you, Bob. I too want to support Don Ryan in his statement there, 100%. Thank you, Don. I want to thank the administration and its staff on a tough year and seeing through. Also with that, all its educators and employees throughout the district. It was extremely tough on everybody, and it was month by month, week by week, decisions were being made, and it was outstanding leadership from the top and seeing it through. After watching the video that we watched here of all the students and their achievements, it's pretty hard not to be proud of our district and everything it accomplishes with all the obstacles that it faces. The graduations were fantastic. If it rained, we went inside. We have, it was nice, we went outside. It was nice to have options to be able to move on and create a family atmosphere, and that's what it was. It was great seeing all the students throughout the year competing at different levels in their specialty. We're on the summer school, and where we are having over, where are we at now, Linda, over 35,000? 26,000, and I believe that is all non-cost to them, right? Good, and we're moving on. We got a big job in front of us, and we look forward to the challenges and everything else. And thank you, everybody, for showing up here. Thank you. We very much appreciate your presence. Thank you.
Dr. Ogletree?
Thank you, Mr. President. Last year, this board, in pursuit of our commitment to our district's motto, Opportunity for All, affirmed by resolution condemning racism. We in the resolution acknowledge that racism still exists, inequity exists, injustice exists, discrimination still exists in our country. But we felt an obligation as leaders of this district to help shape a better America. We stated our desire in the resolution that all of our schools would become no place for hate schools, and to celebrate the diversity that's in our district. It is something that cannot and will not be reversed. Our district is diverse. Among our over 116,000 students, we have now 100 languages. Our ethnic breakdown is Hispanic 45%, Anglo 22%, African American 19%, Asian 9%, multiracial 3%, Native American 0.5%, Pacific Islander 0.1%. Our district, in trying to reach every student and to make sure that we have opportunity for all, we've instituted 13 new arrival centers for non-English speaking students. 35 of our elementary campuses are bilingual campuses. And our student population in this great middle class and upper middle class area is 55% economically disadvantaged. During the pandemic, Opportunity for All, we served over 3 million curbside meals. Our board approved the purchase of 115,000 Chromebooks for our students. Opportunity for All. The district provided Wi-Fi hotspots for students without internet access. We graduated 85 students from Cypress Lakes High School who also had a Lone Star College associate degree. And now all 12 of our schools are going to have that program. Opportunity for All. We have 2 mental health intervention teams consisting of licensed professional counselors, psychologists, and mental health officers. We partner with Sci-Hope to provide backpacks full of food on Friday to students in need, as well as to provide financial assistance for dual credit AP testing and CTE certifications. Opportunity for All. We work with 3 different apartment complexes to provide after-school tutoring. This year we had over 9,000 students to graduate, and not a one had been taught critical race theory. I give you all that to tell you that this board, this team of 8 with our superintendent, we're in the business of providing the finest education we can for all students. Opportunity for all. And our board members, we live in the community, but we don't get our scripts or strategies from any political party or any politician who is presently or not presently in office. We're not partisan or political because we're about the students.
Again,
We
I'm going to
are
ask
about
all
the
of you to
students.
please be quiet.
We affirmed the resolution of racism because it was the right thing to do. That's period. Because we care about all students. We want every student to have an opportunity to learn and excel. And this supposed concern tonight over critical race theory is a non-issue with us. It's a non-issue with us.
Social emotional learning is critical race theory.
Okay, the next
Look
time,
here,
I'm
it
going
was
to
not
have to.
even, Marty, you don't have to say anything. Let them be disrespectful if they want. It was started by a law professor back in 1980, and as a legal lens to examine the role of law in creating and perpetuating racism. It was a legal theory. It is taught exclusively in law schools. And none of our teachers, as Don said, teach critical race theory. I know what's being done in the partisan area, that anytime we mention equality or equity is now lumped into critical race theory, but that is false, it's wrong. And in our resolution, we use the words equity and equality. And it is not, as what I've seen put out in this community, critical race theory renamed. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. As I say, we don't get our stuff from some partisan politics. Look, we're presently in an equity audit in the furtherance of this resolution. Let me tell you what equity is. It is simply meeting the educational needs of all children, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, disability, language, religions, ethnicity, family background, or family income. And if you'll study this and follow us, equity for us is a quantifiable, data-driven educational process, not a social or a political issue. Now, when it comes to equity and when it comes to equality, let me tell you some things that is stated that came long before critical race theory. Because I saw some things that were passed around. When it comes to equality and justice, you can go back, if you want to look at facts, the Declaration of Independence, July 4, 1776, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The preamble to our Constitution, 1788, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union and establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our prosperity, do ordain and establish the Constitution. What we've been doing is simply trying to follow what our country is to be about. And in this country's history, there are some dark points. There was slavery. There was, after slavery, you're free to leave. You are free to leave. After that, then we had many of things that happened over 100 years. That's fact. That is fact. And if you want fact-based education, you're going to get all of history, and it has nothing to do with critical race theory. It's fact. So I want you to know that you came here for politics, we're here for education. You came here to divide our community, we're here to unify. And let me say this. We're all, you can leave. We're all people of faith. We're all people of faith up here. You're all people of faith. And I call you to faith over politics. And I think we should all go by the scripture in Mark 12:31. It's a good rule for us to respect each other, listen to each other, care for each other, and pursue equity and equality. Jesus the Christ said, love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. And you should, and I will, follow that. Bless you.
Well, it's kind of hard to follow up with basically what has been said, but what I will say is I moved into this community in 1975. I was elected to this board in 2005. And in all of that time, I have never been as disappointed as I have been tonight because we're here.
Okay. I was trying to talk to people individually, but I guess I'll speak to everyone, is that this is not a meeting of the public. We have a long agenda to get through. I would encourage you, if you have questions or concerns, write them down, and as the administration, we will work to answer your questions. And we will work to try to answer your questions, but we can't stop every 5 minutes and try to calm the audience down. So please, I'm asking for you to be respectful of the speakers, and the speakers are being respectful. They're doing their job. We have an agenda. This is important business, and I would invite all of you to come every month. I love the interest in our school. We appreciate the feedback. We want to answer your questions, and we want to do what's best for all kids. I need the audience to be respectful and to understand that you're here to listen and learn, and come back every month, and you will learn a lot about this great district. But this is the last time that I'm going to ask that, and I'm going to have to ask individuals to step out with me if you can't maintain decorum. So thank you, Mr. Covey.
Thank you, Marnie. It's just sad that grown-ups cannot listen to each other without reacting hatefully. And that part I don't care for. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So what we teach our kids is what we live, and that's what we do up here. And this is something that I'm finding very sad in that we have had this situation tonight. Although I think you come here with good intentions, I keep thinking I can't believe I'm hearing grown-ups act like I'm hearing them act. So that part I don't agree with. I agree with what Dr. Ogletree said. We do not support the critical race theory. We do not support that. We do support opportunity for all, and that means we need to address some of the equity problems that we have in our district. And I don't care if you're sitting there shaking your head no. If you go into any of our schools or any of our businesses, you will find that there is an inequitable situation that is existing in this district and across the state and across the U.S. Sometimes in other places it's certainly worse than what I've ever seen before. But I want to tell you, number one, just like Marnie said, it tickles me to know that we have this kind of interest and that you showed up. I would really, really encourage you to come back or at least watch it on TV. You know, do some popcorn. If you want to, you can pop a beer. Just watch it and make sure you know what's going on up here without hearing what people are telling you is going on, which is not fact. So with that, we will move on to citizen participation. Patrons who have duly registered for policy BED local may address the board regarding matters of concern, interest to the district, other than the character of any student, staff, or board member. The board may not act upon a matter that is not listed under the action item portion of the agenda. Once again, we have the lights up here. When you start, the green light will come on at 30 seconds before the 2-minute time. The yellow light will come on, and we ask you at the red light to please summarize and complete. First up is Richard Fiden. Is that right? Or is it Frieden? Fiden. Thank you, sir.
I may make one comment before we got started. I know it's been a very difficult and challenging thing, and I appreciate y'all listening to what we have to say. I know there's concerns on both sides, and hopefully I'll get that explained in what I talk about today. So, first of all, I would like to say I'm not PC. I'm too old to be PC. So if I say something that offends somebody, sorry about that, but that's going to be your problem at this point. This may seem a little strange, this thing to say, but thank God for the COVID challenge. Romans 28:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purposes." The COVID lockdowns forced parents to see what goes on in their children's classrooms. Some great, some not so great. While I suspect most of you want to talk about something not so great, I'm confident that many parents have gained a greater appreciation for teachers and school administrators since trying to teach their kids at home during the lockdowns. Most of the educators I know, my wife having been one, always wanted parental involvement. That's not always the case. One issue has risen above the rest, critical race theory. Though we're often told that CRT is not being taught in the schools, maybe not, but we want to be sure that it is not added to the curriculum at Cyfair School District. Obama said you can put lipstick on a pig, but it still is a pig. CRT has been around for a while, and it is covered in lipstick. But why the objections? We want students to come out of the educational system as educated thinkers and doers. Yes, along with the 3 R's, the need to be aware of racism, alternative lifestyles, Marxism, democratic republics, atheism, and God, and other social issues that they may encounter. But we do not believe that they should be taught that they must embrace all these ideas at the expense of their own beliefs, as long as their beliefs do not harm others. Unfortunately, we do see a PC crowd that's bent on destroying those who disagree with their agenda. When I was growing up, as kids played with other kids, all colors and makes, except for the bullies. Nobody liked to play with them. I dare say if you go by a school playground, athletic field, band practice, you will not see issues that need to be radically dealt with. It is one thing to teach about racism. It is a whole other thing to teach racism. The concern about CRT is the concept of pitting one group, the victims, against the other group, the oppressors. Remember, we are talking about children. It's just not right. This is not what America is about, not Christ, not MLK, not decent people. Hopefully one day I will not run into children who hate me for the color of my skin because my daughters and grandchildren are mixed race.
Thank you. Please summarize and thank you. Thank you.
Why would anyone want to do
appreciate you being here, but no, we've gone way over. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Next up, Ryan Lamb.
Thank you, Cypher Board and Dr. Henry, for allowing me to speak today. My name is Ryan Lamb, and I'm a student at Bridgeland High School. I'm here today to ask the student board to allow for teachers to discuss controversial history and topics. I assume many of you are here today out of concern that unmonitored teachers are injecting their opinions into our hyper-political lessons in order to inject us with their own biased opinions. Well, shed your fears, because not only do these teachers never tell us their opinions anyways, in politics, these lessons never happen. Not that teachers can share their opinions anyways, unless they want to be beaten to death by parent emails. Honestly, teachers have to shut us up half the times we talk about politics so much. All the controversial conversations at school are initiated and participated in by students and students alone, and no, slavery can hardly be considered controversial. When the insurrection at the Capitol occurred, I didn't hear a wink from the teachers. The students, however, would not shut up about it. During the election, I heard enough debates between students over policy to last a lifetime. We also talk about social issues a lot. After one lesson about bullying, one student talked about how she had heard another student use a racist slur. They said they were unaware that this word was a slur and apologized for it. Since then, this student has not used this slur. When the Queer Straight Alliance Club was first created at our school, it caused a huge ruckus. Posters were torn down, homophobic and transphobic slurs became much more commonplace, and members of this club were often bullied by their peers. However, the club persisted. This year, I've seen more tolerance and support for the LGBTQ+ community than I've ever seen before. When students caught wind of the implicit bias discussion that was going to take place, it remained a hot topic and conversation for weeks. The student base was hugely split on if the lesson should even occur. When the lesson was basically gutted due to outside circumstances, most of the students took the implicit association test from Harvard University out of interest. Even students who disagree with the original discussion took the test. We, the students, talk about racism, sexism, and homophobia not because our teachers told us, but because we experience it every day from students and adults alike, and that's a problem. These issues need to be discussed because they take the lives of innocent students, and avoiding it out of fear of hurting someone's feelings is incredibly stupid. Barring teachers from discussing controversial history and current day issues due to nothing but treat students like helpless children who can't
Ryan,
form
you're
their own
gonna have to
opinion.
wrap it up.
Rather than trying to stop teachers from doing their job, allow them to give students a resource to grow and mature and
Thank
save
you,
another
Ryan.
student's life. Thank you.
Danielle Browning.
End of October last year, I was sitting in my freshman English classroom about to receive the selection of books we got to choose from for our end of semester reading project. I was expecting the classics such as To Kill a Mockingbird or The Great Gatsby. However, to my surprise, the only books we had to choose from focused on Black Lives Matter and police brutality stories. Of course, having been fully educated on the current events preceding the election, I immediately knew what this was all about. I was overcome with rage as I flipped through one of the novels about a black girl whose best friend was killed by a white cop, a story that seems to be copied and pasted on the news every week. What I noticed was that the author emphasized that the cop was white, but failed to highlight the part of the story where the boy resisted arrest. It soon became crystal clear to me what the intentions behind this reading assignment were, as I saw every student in my class marvel at the girl's bravery for yelling "F the police" at a protest. Critical race theory in schools is a mission designed to brainwash vulnerable children into adopting the Marxist or CRT ideology that all whites are racist and all other races are oppressed. Among those being implemented into the school's curriculum, institutions have begun celebrating different history months in an effort to unify people and promote equality. More division is being created by acknowledging the challenges and oppression that these minorities continue to face because of the so-called white privilege. The goal of this Marxist ideology is to cause complete chaos among the people of this great nation and pin the blame on anyone who disagrees. It is being put into action by infiltrating the developing minds of our precious youth. I've experienced this myself and refuse to succumb to these diabolical ideas. I am 15 years old and I am ridiculed at school every day for my political beliefs and skin color. This is the 1960s all over again, but flipped inside out. History repeats itself, and it's our job to save this great country we call our home. It starts here with the next generation.
So, Ms.
Thank
Browning,
you.
if I read correctly, you're actually a tomball student, is that correct? Okay, thank you.
That's what I was just going to say. It says here that you attend Tomball ISD. But you just spoke about your experiences at...
It didn't happen in our district.
But I guess that's why I'm speaking clarity. You said you're speaking about what happened to you in Tomball ISD.
No.
But you just spoke firsthand of your experience
Okay.
in Tomball ISD,
All right.
correct?
Okay.
Well, no, it's just curious to me. Her form says I'm speaking on behalf of Tomball ISD. Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
That's enough. Marla Lopez, you're up next.
And are you looking at this thing over here? Okay, thank you. Hi, good evening, trustees. Thank you all for having me. My name is Marla. I am a college graduate from UT, and I'm a resident of Jersey Village, and I live within the CFISD area. And I'm also part of Mi Familia Vota. We are a nonprofit education organization. And I just wanted to share that when I first heard about critical race theory, I was in college, and I was a junior in my history major. I had never heard about critical race theory ever. I am a product of Texas schools, and I just want to respectfully say that critical race theory does not exist inside of our schools. It's never existed, and if you actually, respectfully, if you actually read it, the theory talks about how race isn't real, but racist structures are. Our laws are founded, have been founded. You go back to the Declaration, you go back to all of that, and I'm not going to give anybody a history lesson because I know there are plenty of adults here who can do that themselves. I will not do it. But I, as a product of Texas schools, I remember I never heard about people like me. I saw my classmates never hear about people like themselves, families with a history of being, and I'm very sorry, but families being lynched in the border across the state. We don't hear about that. We don't hear about any of the issues that are actually happening. And a lady earlier talked about we need solutions in the budget of CFISD to combat racist structures that cause inequity and harm all of our students. No matter what their political beliefs are, at the end of the day, it is about the children and the students and having, what did you call it? Opportunity for all. And I'm out of time, but thank you all so much, trustees, for your time. Thank you for repeating the mantra of this ISD, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Tom Nobis.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so I'm here to talk. There is critical race theory, even though people say there's not. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having all these people here to talk about it. Reverend Martin Luther King said that our children shouldn't be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, and I believe that. Indoctrination and racial divide is divisive and not unifying. CRT logic is just as bad as gender modification logic that says if I play dress up, I must be a girl. If I'm white, I must be racist and oppressor. You don't know me. In the 60s, there was a group up with people to broaden mindset and accept people as they are, not based on ethnic, racial, or any other designations. Each person was created in the image of God. All life is special. Our country is built on religious freedom, the elimination of tyranny. People are continuing to come here for that very reason. Yeah, I've made mistakes. I bet most people here have too. There are items in history that we'd like to have been different. But it is history. We learn from it. We move on. We don't eliminate history, or at least we repeat it. Each person has an opportunity to work and provide a better life. Do I feel blessed? Yes. I had the opportunity to work hard, get an education, provide for my family, and retire. It was based on merits. It was not handed to me. Education is to provide knowledge useful for future endeavors. I went to Rice University. They taught theory. You had to apply the theory in practical terms. They did not indoctrinate. My parents taught me how to live. They gave me opportunity to succeed or fail and learn along the way. This is not a function of the school. If education is for children, then you should support school choice and the opportunity for those economically disadvantaged to better the education for their children. You should have supported Senate Bill 1968 by our State Senator Betancourt. Christ gave us two laws, and I agree. Love God, love your neighbor as yourself. It's time to put more of this in focus and practice, even at schools and at this board. Thank you.
Mary Ann Jackson.
My name is Mary Ann Jackson, and for the past 23 years, my husband and I have been taxpayers in this school district. Recently, when looking over CFISD website, I was surprised and disappointed when I could not find any resolutions condemning critical race theory, social justice, BLM, or intersectionality movements. Instead, I found another resolution posted which concerned me a lot. In CRT, all aspects of American life are seen in terms of racial power dynamics. As a retired public school teacher, U.S. citizen, and most importantly, a Bible-believing Christian, I expected the district to be promoting pro-America views. CRT violates the basic principles of American equality and justice. Dots became connected for me concerning the leftist CRT and intersectionality movement in January of 2020. After I viewed a free documentary called By What Standards? God's World, God's Rules by Founders Ministry. This video helped me see the process in which Marxism would gain acceptance and dominance in America. I recommend each of the school trustees to watch this documentary, as well as a few others like Paint the Wall Black, The Story of Nini's Deli, which you can find free on YouTube to understand why true Christ followers are horrified to learn how the CRT ideology, which is associated with BLM, has infiltrated many of our schools in a variety of ways. It is crucial our school leaders start to critically think about CRT. Why do many parents and taxpayers have concerns about CRT? Are those residents who have a biblical worldview going to be ignored? I do not approve any public funds being spent to support any leftist ideology like CRT or any others. The children who attend this district deserve so much better. Things won't change for the better in this district or state until we are more concerned with God's approval than the approval of the cult of CRT and intersectionality.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Comstock.
Well, I just want to say I appreciate everybody here. I appreciate everybody here. I appreciate some of the remarks more than others, I will confess, okay? I want to say, oops, sorry. There is a belief that Cypher ISD may be embracing critical race theory in its presentations to its students, if not in name. If so, that is very alarming because very sophisticated, similar techniques have long been employed by Marxist communists to frame everything in terms of class oppression. What is done in the name of does not always bear good fruit. Especially noteworthy is the tolerance audit that is planned. In China, no, right here. In other words, instead of celebrating how far we have come, and yes, celebrating the great insights our founding fathers had, which put us on that path, our schools may be, or already have been, setting ourselves up for a long period of self-recrimination. The effect of this, is to weaken our belief in ourselves, our institutions, our country, and our God. When students are not respectful of each other, they should be reprimanded. If they're not respectful to the teachers, they should be reprimanded. When they are respectful, they should be praised. They should be rewarded for good behavior. Let us get on with life in America. Life in America.
Thank you, Mr. Comstock.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
am I done? I'm
You
sorry.
are, yes. But you did great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judy DeHaan, is that correct? DeHaan, thank you.
Good evening. Yes, my name is Judy DeHaan, and I am a concerned grandparent and taxpayer in Cy-Fair. I read the resolution you approved this last year that indicates support for many Americans' shared values, one being all men are created equal. It also states you want to eliminate systemic oppression and racism. What are your examples in Cy-Fair ISD? One of your staff indicated in Monday's meeting that social and emotional learning was to be embedded through a new program. Please note, this is known as CRT and social justice learning, whether you want to believe that or not. Is this the result of the equity audit? Treating white children differently today to make up for past discrimination is still discrimination and racist. That is the framework for CRT, looking at everything through the prism of race and identity, regardless of someone's character or abilities. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know your story and you don't know mine. What I can tell you is these constructs have caused hurt and despair in my own family when seeing my loved ones' pain over these racial issues. I have sat across from parents who are intimidated to speak for themselves tonight, telling me about this brain pop BLM protest video that was shown to a Cy-Fair ISD third grade class that guilts white children for structural racism. And others telling me of their concerns about these activities associated, yes, with the Anti-Defamation League No Place for Hate program. And you were putting this back off on the children for making those decisions when you're giving them the activities to choose from. This has also been put into the military over the last 6 months, and there's been many negative repercussions for doing so. All we're asking, in summary, is a public policy be implemented to prohibit CRT and the tenets thereof in Cy-Fair ISD, as I stand here as an advocate for all children. To accomplish this, it will be necessary, though, for you and you only to do your own due diligence, including audits and reviews around teacher training, including Dr. Tyrone Howard's presentations for Cy-Fair ISD educators, curriculum and extracurricular activities.
Thank you, Ms. DeHaan. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Bruce DeMeyer.
Good evening, everybody. As you heard, my name is Bruce DeMeyer. I have 2 kids going to school in Cy-Fair right now, one to be starting soon, and I think you might know what I'm going to talk about today. The one thing I've heard is a lot of concern about critical race theory, but I haven't heard a lot of facts. I went and looked it up. As noted by Dr. Ogletree and others on the board, it's a wildly diverse school district. It's why I came here. I moved here to Houston. I heard about this district. I said, I want my sons to learn here. They don't need to be in a bubble. But then I looked at the income of people who are white in our district. This isn't U.S., this isn't Texas, in our district. African American and Hispanic Latinos earn 67 cents on the dollar relative to their white counterparts. Everyone says everyone's equal. I agree. So why is this happening? We need to ask ourselves this question. And the only reason is this systemic racism that needs to be addressed. And so what I'd like to know from the board is when the teachers have to respond to children who observe this. It's not hard to go into a neighborhood and see, oh, these houses are bigger. oh, there's a lot of white people outside. How, when they go to their teachers,
Okay,
are they
now,
going?
I want everyone
No
to
one
be
has said
quiet
a-
now.
You need to respect who's speaking.
How are we going to defend our teachers when they have to respond to these questions, given that the law says that they could be in trouble, that this district could be in trouble if they have to respond to those honest questions from their students? I'll actually stay under time. Thank you for the time. And Dr. Ogletree, I really appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Last speaker is Michael Godsey.
Hello, my name is Michael Godsey, and I'm here for CRT. And I have 4 boys that attend the schools out here in Cy-Fair. And, you know, I've personally seen the things that they are being taught in the schools, and it's always disguised as, you know, well, it's diversity or it's this or that. And then, you know, it's something else is always snuck in with it, you know. And my wife is black. My boys are interracial. They're half black. And they attend a majority white school. I mean, it's probably 90% white. All their friends are white. Family members are white. And, you know, I don't see where this racism is. We're always being taught, we're always being told that there's racism everywhere. And I always ask my kids, I'm like, do you see this racism? Do you experience it at school? Are you called the N-word? Are you discriminated? Are you not invited to birthday parties? No, the answer is always no. And I've come to a conclusion that all of this stuff is being taught to us through the media. We're not racist towards one another. We're being taught to hate each other through
Please be
liberal
quiet so he can speak.
propaganda that we see on TV. And if everyone would just stop for a minute and look at one another and appreciate each other for who we are instead of what other people tell us that we are, we could do a lot better than just.
Thank you, Mr. Godsey. Appreciate it. We're going to take about a 5-minute break. If you want to stay and hear the rest of the meeting, you're welcome to. If you want to go home, you're welcome to do that. Thank you all for being here. Okay, before we get into the business, we do have a Boy Scout, Girl Scout member, Eleanor Escobar, 7th grade at Spillane. Are you still here? There she is. She's earning her citizenship in the community badge. This should have been an interesting evening for you. Thank you very much for being here. Action items, consent. The board will consider approving the minutes of the May 10th, 2021 regular board meeting. Go on, right? The following non-consent action items were moved to consent during the board work session on Monday, June 21st. 10D, the board will consider approving the budget amendments for the period of April 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2021. Anybody have any questions on that tonight? Okay, moving on. The board will consider approving a resolution for commitment to the district's fund balance. Anybody have any questions on 10E? Moving along, that's part of consent. The board will consider this 10H board, The board will consider a resolution approving the district's investment policy and investment strategy, the investment officers of the district, the independent sources of instruction relating to investment responsibilities for the investment officers of the district, and the investment training hours. Anybody have anything for Karen Smith?
Well, on that, that should be a standalone item because I have to abstain.
Okay,
as I do
I'm
every
sorry.
year.
We're taking 10H off, Holly. Thank you, Tom. 10I, the board will consider approving the 2021-2022 Harris County Protective Services interlocal agreement with the Harris County Protective Services for Children and Adults, HCPSA, to provide community youth services for students and families in their Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. Anybody have any questions for Roy Garcia or Franklin Sampson? Moving along, 10J.
Mr. President,
I'm sorry.
and I apologize. I was in the room getting some more, out of the room getting more liquid. I did have a question on 10A1,
Okay.
2020 Elementary School, number 58.
That's not on there.
Okay. So that's non-consent.
Yeah, that's non-consent.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Where was I? Okay, 10I. And then we'll move on. 10J, the board will consider approving the memorandum of understanding between Harris County Juvenile Board, Cypress-Fairbanks ISD to participate in the JJAEP for the 2021-2022 school year. Anybody have anything for IFE, or we're moving along? The board will consider approving facilities for off-campus physical education for 2021-2022 school year. Anybody have anything for Dr. Heather Bergman? It's on consent. We're moving on. 10L, the board will consider approving the list of advanced courses for 2021-2022. Anybody have any questions for Dr. Bergman? That's on consent. In case you're wondering, we met Monday night and went over all of these. We had a very long meeting with lots of information. So if it seems like we're just running through it, well, that's kind of what we're doing. But we did hear it Monday night. 10N, the board will consider approving the CenterPoint Energy Houston Electric LLC blanket utility easement to provide overhead and underground electrical service at the existing CFISD Exhibit Center and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents. Anything from Mr. Morgan? Moving along, 10O, the board will consider approving the CenterPoint Energy Houston Electric LLC blanket utility easement to provide underground electrical service for the new elementary school 57 and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents. Anything from Mr. Morgan on this? Hearing nothing, if I would appreciate if someone would make a motion.
Mr. President, I move that all the consensus items be approved as recommended or amended.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Anybody have any questions on any of these? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. And that's unanimous. The following non-consent action items remained on non-consent. 10A, the board will consider approving construction proposals, contracts paid from bond funds to the recommended contractor, and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to such contracts as follows. 10A1, 2020 Elementary School, number 58. Are there any questions?
Mr. President, I move that I know Tom's going to have a question. I was going to make the motion, and then we could go with the questions.
Okay.
Mr. President, I move that the board award this construction contract to the recommended contractor and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to such contract.
Okay. Do I have a second? Thank you, Gilbert. Tom, do you have something about this?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Matt, where are you? There he is.
He's always in the back of the room, Tom.
I noticed that. You know, he likes that long, slow walk.
I need the steps, and for the record, I was on the second row.
Oh.
So my standard comment and standard question, it always says that you wind up fighting the war of of the last war, but I think we have to be mindful. So please identify whether or not this happens to be in a floodplain. If so, did we have any mitigation that we had to design into the plan itself? And then also, for the benefit of the attending audience as well as the viewing audience, indicate, was this a competitive bid or a non-competitive bid?
Certainly. This location does not lie in a floodplain, and this area did not flood during Harvey, so there was no mitigation required. As far as the procurement, this was done through a competitive process, competitive sealed proposal. We received multiple bids from contractors, and we ranked those contractors and accepted the best value for the district.
And all of that information is on our board book for us to
All of
review.
that
Is
information is
correct?
in the board book and available to the public. Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, concerns? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Thank you. 10B, the board will consider approving board members to serve as delegate and alternate delegate to the 2021 Texas Association of School Boards, TASB's annual delegate assembly. I believe Dr. Ogletree is going to be our delegate, and I believe Debbie Blackshear is going to be the alternate. Am I correct? May I have a motion on that, please? Did you not know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was asked.
Okay.
Mr. President, I move that the board select Dr. John Ogletree as delegate and Miss Debbie Blackshear as alternate delegate to the Texas Association of School Boards Annual Delegate Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Any questions? Nope. All in favor, raise your right hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you for y'all serving. Thank you. 10C, the board will consider the endorsement of candidacy for TASB Board of Directors representing Region 4. As we had talked the other night, Georgianne Rittmeyer from Klein is running again for position 4A, and Tony Hopkins from Friendswood. I think it's Friendswood, isn't it?
Yeah.
Friendswood for position 4C. I don't believe anyone's opposing them right now. So may I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that the board endorse candidate Georgianne Rittmeyer and candidate Tony Hopkins for the TASB Board of Directors representing Region 4.
Thank you, Tom. May I have a second? Thank you, Gilbert. Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Thank you. 10F, the board consider the adoption of the 2021-2022 budget. Are there any questions for Karen Smith?
I think Karen might have a brief presentation.
Karen, you got a brief presentation?
Yes, Mr. Covey.
You don't have to be that brief. I'm just,
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, it is brief.
Okay.
Thank you, President Covey and Dr. Henry and board members. As you know, on Monday I presented the 2021-2022 proposed budget, and we also discussed the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 spending plans. And based on the board's request, oh, I just realized, I'm sorry, I apologize, I had not switched over. Based on the board's request at the Committee of the Whole meeting, I will be providing an update to the 2021-2022 budget with a 5% raise on the greater of the midpoint or base and a teacher starting salary of $58,500. As a reminder, on Monday, we mentioned a starting teacher salary of $58,000, so this is $500 more than what was proposed on Monday. So a salary increase of 5% on the greater of the midpoint or base will be $41.2 million. The remainder of the items are unchanged associated with the expenditures I presented the other day. I thought it would be helpful to show you, since several board members referenced this. Y'all referenced the teacher salary comparison that was presented at the May board workshop. And this is for 2020, 2021. And you'll see here the 0-year, 5-year, 10-year, 15, and 20-year salaries. So I thought it'd be useful for you to see that one more time. CFISD was in this particular presentation here is ranked third in the beginning teacher salary, second in the 5, 10, and 15, and then first in the 20-year salary. With the 5% raise, this is what the teacher salary would be. You see here the 2021 and then also the 21-22 salary. So you can see for all these different intervals, the 0, the 5, the 10, 15, and 20, the effect that a 5% raise would have for anybody on the teacher pay scale.
Any questions for Karen?
Is she done? Oh, I think she's still going.
I-
She's still.
Only
I'm sorry,
very
you
quick.
still
No,
good?
it's just very quickly. I'm not going to go over much
okay.
more information on this, except for the fact that the board is required to approve a budget for the general fund, the debt service fund, and the food service fund. So the revenue information remains unchanged, but just briefly on the expenditure side, the 5% salary increase would increase the budget deficit by $16.6 million. And if you recall, I shared with you that we cannot do any type of recoding to federal funds at this point in time because we have not received approval of our grant application. I will tell you that we have submitted both the ESSER-1 and ESSER-2 and ESSER-3 grant applications this week with hope that we'll hear about that very soon. But a majority
And just to point on that too, I had contacted the commissioner about 3 weeks ago, and he assured me that he would move us up to the front since we're a July 1 budget year. So hopefully, I know he's been tied up with the State Board of Education meeting this week, but hopefully they'll do that.
And we're a majority with that being said, with the grant funds, a majority of this deficit can be taken care of by recoding expenditures associated with these grant funds. I'm just required to have you adopt these separate budgets. I will not go over all the instructional related items, but just the functional items, but I will just simply share with you the fact that they have changed because of the 5% raise.
Dr. Ogletree, did you have
Then
something?
you will see here the
Okay,
debt
I'm sorry.
service. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Almost
sorry.
done.
You know, you give me that dramatic pause, and I think we're through. Excuse me.
The debt service fund budget remains unchanged, and it's a balanced budget. What has changed a little bit is the food service budget. We did have to adjust that for the 5% salary increase. And also, we were pleasantly informed that the reimbursement rate for federal meals has increased. We received that information on Tuesday, and we believe the federal government is really working to try to help the food service operations recover some of the expenditures that they have incurred due to the reduced a la carte meals as well as lower participation. And then just quickly, a reminder that the proposed rate, it's an estimated rate at this point in time, but it will be lower than the rate we currently have of 1.3555. And we believe it'll be close to a 2-cent reduction in the tax rate. Now I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Okay, well, we're gonna move on to the motion first. So, may I have a motion to approve the non-consent item as recommended or amended?
Mr. President, I move that the board adopt the 2021-2022 budget as presented by the administration.
Okay, now do we have any questions?
Mr. President, I want to amend that motion and add a stipend on for our hourly employees. I think that we should definitely consider our hourly employees who are on the bottom tier and give them something that is tangible, something that they can use at this present moment.
Okay,
I will accept that his amended motion, if you need that. Marnie?
Yes, the maker of the motion, it can be a friendly amendment if the maker is in agreement.
And let me ask Karen, how many employees fit into that category?
If you're just are you talking hourly and paraprofessional?
Yes.
It's about 6,200 employees.
6,200. I want to move that we give them a stipend of $1,000.
And I'll accept the friendly amendment.
Point of order, there is no such thing as a friendly amendment. There is a motion on the floor. A motion can be made to amend the motion. It does require a second. You then have discussion on the amended motion.
Okay.
But there is no such thing in Robert's Rules of Order as a friendly
But
amendment.
we follow an amended Robert's Rules of Order, just so you know. But either way you can do it. But because we do an
I'll second it.
abbreviated RRO, then that's why we typically do friendly amendments. But either way, if you want to second and follow,
I'll
doesn't matter.
second it, and then we can add that on to the friendly and whatever you want to, however you want to phrase it. Thank you, Tom.
I'm confused. So where are we right now, Marnie?
Welcome to my world.
Where are we, Marnie?
We've got,
Do we take a vote now, or do we?
And that's fine. If Tom wants to second the, so if you want to do the formal process, then you can make a motion to amend the motion, and then someone would second, and then you actually vote on the amendment.
Okay.
But first, we have discussion on the amendment
On the
prior to a
amendment.
vote.
Right. Yeah, correct. Then you have discussion.
Now we have discussion. Tom?
So what does this add to the deficit?
I turned it off. At 1,000, then it would be about $6.2 million.
And so what does that do to our operating reserve in terms of months?
Well, I would have to see where that would
It
actually
would be a
take us.
very, very small
It would be
percentage.
small because our monthly expenditures are about 90 million, 88 to 90 million.
Does this move us below 4 months?
Over 3 years, I don't know if you recall, I shared that it depends on the flow of the ESSER funds, but we believe with the flow of the ESSER funds over a 3-year period, our worst case scenario would get us close to 4 months in fund balance. And hopefully we've got other options with ESSER funding also.
So you're suggesting that this would move us below 4 months?
Oh, I'm saying that where we were, our worst case scenario was 4 months. I'm not saying that this would move us below 4 months.
I would also note there was no board consensus on a 5% raise. I know Don is well respected. He suggested we had no motion, right? We did not take action at the committee of the whole. It was a discussion. So there is no way that we can say that that your presentation is based upon what the board requested you to do, because we did not take a motion. We did not take that step. And this board did not meet outside of a public meeting.
And I think Tom is trying to be crystal clear that there wasn't any inappropriate action. I think what Karen meant, or what Dr. Henry meant, was that based on the conversation, and we do that sometimes, you all give us feedback, and so we take that feedback, and the consensus of anything that took place was only in the public meeting. You are correct.
And Mr.
Thank you
Jackson,
for
we actually
clarifying
have
that.
both of those budgets available tonight, depending on the direction that the board wished to go. But due to the committee of the whole conversation, we wanted to be prepared for whatever y'all decided to do.
Okay, so this is where I'm a little, we did have a motion from Don, and we had a second from Debbie, but we didn't take a vote.
Correct.
Okay. And then we had a friendly amendment, which may possibly not work.
No, we have an amendment on the floor that has been made and seconded. And so now we have discussion on the amendment.
Okay.
And so those are my comments, which is part of the discussion on the amendment itself.
Okay.
and
So the first part of it was, what is the cost of this? The second part is, will it move us below 4 months? Because as I indicated at the committee of the whole, 3 months is our minimum. 4 months gives us the flexibility. I am concerned if this were to move us below the 4 month threshold. And so that's where we are in the in the discussion. So I'm trying to gain a better understanding as to how much below the 4-month threshold will this move us. I know you think there are additional funds coming in, but I hear your concern, or maybe you aren't concerned, but I hear your observation that this would move us below the 4-month threshold, which is important to me for my vote.
That was in the worst case scenario that I shared. You on Monday, the question came up if we did a 5% raise, what was kind of our worst case scenario and our best case scenario. And my assumptions were based on looking at being very conservative and how much ESSER funding we would be getting and the unknowns associated with the ESSER 2. So I was being very conservative on that. And the best case scenario I looked at was about 4.25. And those are being very conservative. So I believe that we are very safe at keeping at 4 months or above.
So your best case is 4.25 in terms of reserves, and what would your worst case be?
It was the 4.
So your worst case is a 4-month threshold. The amendment, if approved, will push us slightly below the 4 months.
That's not what she said.
No.
No, that's not what she said.
No, what I'm saying is if everything happened in the worst case scenario, which I do not anticipate occurring, then it would be at that 4-month portion.
Well, yes, so
But-
and pardon me for interrupting, but I just repeated what you said, and there were comments that wasn't what you said, but what you said was for your worst case scenario, it put us at 4 months, and if we go beyond the 5% raise, that will push us slightly below the 4 months. So arithmetically, it has to be correct, what I'm saying.
It's assuming that with the ESSER 2 funds that we don't get any of the ESSER 2 funds, because for us, that's the worst case scenario. We have to supplant the whole thing. I do not believe that will occur. I believe we'll get more than, the complete amount being offset.
But just as a note, Tom, and I'd like for Karen to answer this, but just as a note, we've got 14 million of ESSER 3 unallocated. So that 14 million would more than cover if the board chose to do some type of stipend.
Yes. And that's what I was suggesting with the additional funds.
And those funds are not otherwise designated by law?
No.
The ESSER 3?
It's up to us based on our application that we submitted. That one, we got the entire amount, all of the ESSER 3 funding.
As a question I asked, and it's not appropriate for the amendment, so Marnie can always cut me off, but I had requested the cost. Well, I bring it up because she's out of the room. I brought up the question of the cost of having the full-time subs, and you mentioned that the cost was what, 4.6 million? Is that correct?
That was, and we recently received updated numbers on that, and it's about 5.4 million because that was just through May. So after looking at all the, we called them AIS subs, and they were 5.4 million.
So that's a gross cost, but that's not a net cost, because if they were there, you didn't have to bring in other subs.
Yes, I guess yes.
Yeah. So that's gross, not net to the budget, because there would have been some savings in the budget.
They were not, there would be there were times that these subs were maybe not utilized as a sub, that they were more to help teachers maybe when they needed additional assistance.
So that's a gross number. The actual net number would be somewhat less than that. And so at the committee of the whole meeting, I did ask management, and once again, council can cut me off because this is on the budget and is somewhat related to the amendment because it speaks to the feasibility of the cost of the amendment. So I think I'm still on track. What is the reason why management would prefer not to pursue this approach? As I said at the committee of the whole, my input, not only from this district, but from other districts, was highly favorable on this technique. And after Cyfair unveiled it, many districts adopted it, but it's not part of the budget. And so at the prior meeting, I said I would bring it back up, and I see this as being a management decision, not a board decision, but I'd kind of like to know what's the rationale why we did not put it into the budget.
Well, I think we plan on having a more normal school year, whatever that term means, so we don't feel like it will be necessary.
Okay. I remain having concerns. I don't think we'll have difficulties really from the pandemic, but I'm not confident that we will have a normal school year in terms of absenteeism. I think the last 18, 20 months have taken a toll, and I think that's reflected in increased absenteeism, not a reduction in absenteeism. But as I said, that's a management decision, and I'll respect the management decision. But I am disappointed because I thought it was a very useful tool and technique, and I do not see it as being wasteful. I do appreciate reporting of the gross cost. I would suspect the net cost would probably be about half of that.
Mr. Jackson, just to share with you additional staff that we are adding this coming year. With the ESSER funds, we budgeted a position for every one of our high schools. And so they are all getting an additional position that's in the form of a specialist or an interventionist that can step in to support if we find ourselves with a huge shortage. So we are adding additional staff as part of the ESSER funds.
Thank you, Linda. While we're still on the topic of the amendment for the budget and talking to the feasibility of the cost portion, what amount did we have in the budget for substitutes?
Our budget's usually about 13 million for substitutes.
And so are we using that number again?
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
Anyone else?
Karen?
Yes.
I just want to clarify a few things. And thank you for the report on the 5%. With the release of these ESSER funds, when we were looking at doing a stipend on Monday, a $1,000 stipend was about 16.6 million, but that was for everybody.
Yes, that was for all employees.
And so what was the number for, if we pull out the salaried employees there? You said it earlier, and was it 6.2?
It depends on the amount you request, but if it's 1,000, it'd be about 6.2 million.
Okay, and would it be, would there be any benefit, especially if we're waiting on funds, if the board voted on that to do 500 in the fall semester and 500 in the spring? It'd still be 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're waiting on funds, would that be a little? But no. Would that be a little safer on our part financially?
Well, for us, as far as within a year, it's just within the fiscal year.
Right.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, but I know that. But I'm just saying we're waiting on funds, and I'm looking at this block over here that says amount received 0.
Yes. Oh,
So
I'm following you. I
That scares me a
apologize.
little bit when we're waiting for someone to give us money. And, you know, I could look at our rainy day fund in Austin it's been raining for a while. And so I was just thinking if it would be kind of like in my house, if we want to budget for something, we budget and kind of plan out what we expect.
Yes.
And so I'm not opposed to the $1,000 stipend per se. I'm just wondering if it would be better to do it over a 2-semester period.
Yes. And the thing is, we can utilize, as Dr. Henry said, some of the ESSER funding towards that. And we, you know, which we can draw down towards that.
Don, I would say that I am more comforted because the 4-month of operating reserves is pretty much a red line number for me. I sat in the audience when a prior board had to deal with not even having 3 months. And so it's taken a lot, and we are willing to give to our staff a significant portion of our operating reserve. And I spoke on that at the COW and indicated I was willing to give our reserves to the classroom. And I still am. I do like the idea for several reasons. If the stipend, and I support the concept, don't get me wrong. If half of it is in the fall and half of it is in the spring, I like that concept for all kinds of reasons. One is financial, but two, it's also a reminder to our employees that receive the stipend that we value them all year. You know, so it sends a message. The current amendment does not indicate when it's to be paid. And I don't know if we need an amendment that indicates when it's to be paid if the sense of the board is that it be split. But certainly a third of an amendment to the amendment can be offered.
Do we have to do that, Marnie? Are we're voting on the budget, and then Dr. Henry will implement what we want to do, is my understanding.
That's exactly what I was about to say, is that just the
Okay.
consensus, just like, you know, Tom was pointing out earlier, that we act on the consensus, you know. And so we've heard you, and so Dr. Henry
I'm going to do your wishes.
He would do your bidding.
Well, and thank you, Tom, because I think that gives us a little bit of cushion, and I think that I will say, and the whole time I've been on the board, our board has been fiscally prudent with the funds that we have, and that's thanks to you and Stuart and, you know, people before us. So I'm comfortable with maybe splitting that up. I like Tom's idea. We appreciate you all year long, but that would be what I would prefer personally.
Mr. President, would you ask for a consensus of the board on that point?
I can.
I'm splitting it.
Yeah. So, yes, I'm asking for what is the consent. So, Julie, how do you feel about it?
I support the 5% raise for all employees plus a $1,000 stipend for hourly employees and paraprofessionals to be split between the 2 semesters.
Thank you. Dr. Ogletree?
Well, if you'd asked me when I made the motion, when I believe they need it, I would have said yesterday. But I will, acquiesce, go along with the board if there are some concerns about our fund balance, and I just want to make sure we do that. And if that's what the board is leaning, I'll do that.
Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, I said that.
Okay.
Have you heard me?
Just want it on record.
Oh, okay. It's on record.
I'm not sure where
It's
the
on record with
is.
what I said. Hey, it's the same thing that's on record with what I said at
Okay.
board comments.
I am in agreement with exactly as Julie stated it, and I feel it is fiscally prudent to do it that way.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes, my preference is to support the amendment and to split the stipend, one in the fall, half of it in the fall and half in the spring.
Thank you, Mr. Arabia.
Yes, I agree with it. I believe it's a wonderful idea, and Julie explained it perfectly. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. So that's unanimous. Now we can go to the motion,
Could I say one thing?
Sure.
You know, it's,
Mudding it up.
I'm sorry.
I'm
This
sorry.
is going to clear it up and make
Okay,
y'all
all
feel
right.
better.
Okay.
It's Stuart Snow's job at one time, and now it's Karen's job to always take on the worst-case scenario. But I would remind the board that we are going to receive $126 million in ESSER 3 money. We know that. And then from that, there's another $68 million that's somewhere along the line in the next, what's the deadline? Somewhere in 22 or 23?
Funds can be through 2024. We're just waiting on that remaining
Okay.
third.
But they'll set the rules up. So we've got another $68 million, I think, coming from ESSER 3.
Yes.
And then we also don't even know what our ESSER 2 amount will be yet, but there'll be additional, a few tens of millions of dollars coming from there. So I'm going to be the optimist and say that when it's all said and done, our fund balance is going to be just fine. It may go down a little bit, but it's not going to go down to 4 months.
Okay. So do we have an amended motion? We do, right?
Yes.
All right. Do we have a second for that?
We do.
Who was that?
That was me, but I don't know if I can do it.
You made the motion and the second?
No.
Give it to Tom.
No. John made the motion.
No, that was for the first
I
one.
made the
Well,
second to Don's original motion.
Who's
Okay.
on first?
What? Go ahead.
We have to vote on the amendment.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
So John made the amendment
He made the amendment.
for the stipend.
Okay.
Don seconded it.
He did?
That's the motion on the floor.
Okay, so we have that. Thank you, Tom. Oh, God, there's no questions. All in favor, raise your right hand. And that one passes. Okay, now we're going to the
Do we need to
motion.
take a break?
No. No. I'm on a roll here, so we're going to go on with the next one. So we have a motion by Don, the original motion, and a second by Debbie. Are there any questions?
No.
All in favor, raise your right hand for the budget. And that's unanimous. Thank you, God. Okay. 10G, the board will consider approving the list of qualified financial institutions, brokers, dealers, investment pools, and investment advisors that are authorized to engage in investment transaction with the district. May I have, or are there any questions?
Just
Tom?
real quick, I think this may be the one, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah.
Tom, I think
there
this
may
is
have
yours.
been
To abstain.
a question about the letters earlier, but I think, Mr. Jackson, that this may be the one that you need
Right.
to abstain from.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, did you want to make that statement now? Okay.
Mr. President, I move
So
that
there-
the Board of Trustees approve a list of qualified financial institutions, brokers, dealers, investment pools, and investment advisors that are authorized to engage in investment transactions with the district.
Thank you, Don. May I have a second? Second. Thank you, Debbie. Now, are there any questions?
Mr. President, as a matter of law, I need to abstain from voting on this matter.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you very much. The board will consider awarding bids and contracts and are authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item. 10M1 Art and Miscellaneous School Supplies, 10M2 Aruba Clear Pass Upgrade, 10M3 Assorted Food for Nutrition Services 2021, 10M4 Athletic All Activity Student Accident Insurance Renewal, 10M5 Automotive Hardware and Fasteners, 10M6 Automotive OEM Proprietary Parts and Labor, 10M7 Bananas for Nutrition Services, 10M8 CFISD Cisco Core Switching Quote, 10M9 Distributors Catalog Bid for Nutrition Services, 10M10 Electrical Supplies, 10M11 Excess Workers' Compensation Coverage Renewal, 10M12 Farm to School Produce for Nutrition Services, 10M13 Leave Management Software, 10M14, milk for high schools for nutrition services. 10M15, processed produce for nutrition services. 10M16, programming, inspection, and repair of fire alarm and sprinkler systems. 10M17, school liability, privacy, and information security, and automobile insurance renewal. 10M18, software license and maintenance renewal expansion. 10M19, whole produce for nutrition system. May I have a motion?
President, I move that all those items we just read on 10M be approved.
You don't want to repeat each one? No. Okay. Do I have a second? Thank you, Gilbert. Now, we have any questions?
I just want to comment that I will be abstaining from the vote because one of my sons works for Jake's Finer Foods, which is receiving one of the contracts in 10M3.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. 10P, the board will consider authorizing administration to declare certain undeveloped district property as surplus and advertise the property for sale in accordance with the state law and board policy. We have any, we're not going into closed session on this, are we?
That was Monday.
That was Monday. Okay. Okay,
If
do we
there
have
were
any
any further
questions? I need a
questions, we
motion. I need a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the board authorize the administration to declare certain undeveloped district property as surplus and advertise the property for sale in accordance with state law and board policy.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. May I have a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Any questions? If not, please, let's vote. Raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Lord, 10Q, the board will review and consider taking action to revise the contract of employment for the superintendent. May I have a motion to approve the non-consent item as recommended or amended?
No, we have to go in close.
That'll be closed session.
Right.
Would y'all? Okay. Did we not go into closed session Monday? Yes.
We
We
did,
did,
we didn't make a
but we have to
decision.
go
Thank
back
you.
into closed session
Thank you.
tonight.
Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry, Bob, that was
That's
my
all right.
fault. I
No,
meant to say that ahead of time.
Okay. What a night. The district will consider a Level 4 appeal, C. Smith R. Keeling R. Sensel, for the Level 3 decision. This item was discussed in closed session on Monday, June 21st, 2021.
Mr. President, I move that the board uphold the level 3 decision made by the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. May I have a second?
Anyone? Bueller?
Mr. President, I will not be voting because I was not present for
Right.
the hearing on Monday.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Don and a second by Gilbert. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to the superintendent's briefing. Dr. Henry, it's yours. Oh, I'm sorry, we've got to go back to 10H, right?
What is 10A?
Good catch, Ollie.
Where the heck is that?
They can't wait till August.
Okay, I don't even have it. Here it is, okay. 10H, the board will consider a resolution approving the district's investment policy and investment strategy, the investment officers of the district, the independent sources of instruction relating to investment responsibilities for the investment officers of the district, and investment training hours. May I have a motion?
Yeah, just a minute.
Y'all go to sleep?
Trying to find it.
Oh, I'm looking up your meds.
I'll do it.
Mr.
I move
President,
that the board approve a resolution for the district's investment policy and investment strategy, the investment officers of the district, and independent sources of instruction relating to the investment responsibilities for the investment officers of the district, and investment training hours.
Thank you, Mr. Arabia. May I have a second?
second.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous, thank you. Now I will turn it over to Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. A total of 9,139 graduating seniors from the class of 2021 walk the stage at Cy-Fair FCU Stadium and the Berry Center during our 12 graduation ceremonies held May 27th through June 4th. In addition to more than 40,000 guests who attended the commencement exercises, nearly 70,000 watched the graduations via live stream. I'd like to thank our Board of Trustees and the many district employees who helped organize and assist at our 12 high school graduation ceremonies. I'm very proud of the graduates and wish them every success in their future endeavors while pursuing further education as a career. And I will add to that, I don't know of any other large district like Cy-Fair ISD where all of the trustees show up for all of the graduations. That really speaks volume. In fact, I was talking to someone in a district near our size, and the superintendent said he only went to one graduation, and the board members might be one there. So y'all are to be commended for your volunteer service. A friendly reminder that Monday, July 5th will be a student and staff holiday, and that July 6th through 9th will be a regular 8-hour work week. And the facilities will be open from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Just a reminder, don't pop your fireworks on district property. It's dangerous, and if you see someone shooting fireworks on district property, let CFPD know so we can kindly ask them to shoot their fireworks somewhere else. We certainly don't want to burn a building down. CFISD has many opportunities available during the summer months. In addition to community programs, summer camps, we also have music camps, athletic camps, and even a junior police academy. You can find out about all of those summer offerings on www.cfisd.net/summer. So, hope everyone is having and continues to have a safe and happy summer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, now I'd like to have a motion to move into closed session.
Mr. President, I move that we adjourn to closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Ogletree. All in favor, please raise your right hand. We're going into closed session. You're certainly welcome to sit out there if you want to. Prop your feet up, take a nap, whatever you want to do. We'll be back in a little bit.
Are we back in session?
In session. May I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the revised contract of employment for the superintendent as discussed in closed session with the general counsel.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor, raise your right hand.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you.